Her scientific curiosity ended in screaming, "What was that between humans' legs?" Dr. Olivia Martinez had always been fascinated by the unknown. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she spent her days studying theoretical alien life forms from her laboratory in Neo-Tokyo's research district. The year 2087 brought humanity its first real contact with extraterrestrial beings, and Olivia found herself at the center of the most important scientific discovery in human history. The Zephyrian delegation had arrived 3 weeks ago. There, sleek silver ships landing gracefully in the designated zones around major Earth cities. Unlike the hostile invasions depicted in old Earth movies, these beings came in peace, seeking cultural and scientific exchange. Their leader, Ambassador Kylo, had specifically requested to work with Earth's top biological researchers. Olivia remembered the first time she saw him. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, Kylo possessed an otherworldly elegance that took her breath away. His skin appeared to be made of living starlight, shifting between deep blues and silver hues depending on his mood. Most striking were his eyes, large pools of liquid mercury that seemed to hold the wisdom of galaxies. "Dr. Martinez," Kylo had said during their first meeting, his voice resonating like distant thunder, "your species intrigues us greatly. We wish to understand human biology and emotions." What started as professional curiosity quickly evolved into something deeper. Olivia found herself looking forward to their daily research sessions, not just for the scientific discoveries, but for the moments when Kylo would tilt his head in that peculiar way, studying her with genuine interest. During their 3rd week together, they were reviewing comparative anatomy charts in Olivia's private laboratory. The evening sun cast long shadows through the floor-to-ceiling windows, creating an intimate atmosphere. Neither had anticipated. "Your species is remarkably complex," Kylo observed, his luminescent fingers tracing diagrams of human circulatory systems. "Yet there are aspects of human biology that remain unclear to us." Olivia felt her cheeks warm. "What aspects specifically?" Kylo's skin shifted to a deeper blue, which she had learned indicated deep concentration or embarrassment. "The reproductive mechanisms. On Zephyr, our species reproduces through mental bonding and energy transfer. Physical contact is minimal." The conversation took an unexpected turn when Kylo asked about human mating rituals. Olivia, ever the scientist, began explaining with clinical precision, but found herself growing flustered as Kylo's questions became more specific. "You mentioned external reproductive organs," Kylo said, his mercurial eyes fixed on her. "This concept is foreign to us. Our reproductive essence is internal, connected to our consciousness." Olivia's heart raced. The professional boundary she had maintained was beginning to blur. "Well, yes, humans have different anatomy. Males have external organs that are quite different from your species." "May I observe?" Kylo asked with innocent scientific curiosity. For research purposes, of course. The question hung in the air between them. Olivia realized that what had begun as simple scientific exchange had evolved into something more personal, more intimate. The way Kylo looked at her, the gentle hum of energy that surrounded him when he was near, the conversations that stretched late into the night about dreams, hopes, and the vastness of space. That would require a male subject," Olivia stammered, her scientific mind warring with emotions she hadn't expected to feel for an alien being. Kylo stepped closer, his presence filling the room with a warm, electric energy. "I find myself curious about many things regarding your species, Dr. Martinez, but most curious about you." The admission sent shivers down Olivia's spine. She had fallen for an alien, something she never thought possible. But looking into those liquid mercury eyes, she realized the connection transcended species, planets, and even galaxies. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "I'll arrange for you to meet Dr. James Kovac from the Male Anatomy Research Division. He's been eager to participate in the cultural exchange program. As Kylo's skin brightened to a warm golden hue, indicating pleasure, Olivia knew that their scientific collaboration was about to become much more complicated and infinitely more interesting. The next morning arrived with unusual tension in the research facility. Olivia had barely slept, her mind racing with questions about the growing attraction she felt toward Kylo. She had contacted Dr. James Kovac, a good-natured reproductive health specialist who had volunteered for the alien research program. James was everything Olivia wasn't when it came to awkward situations. Where she stumbled over words, he remained calm and professional. At 32, he possessed the kind of easy confidence that made difficult conversations seem natural. His brown hair and warm hazel eyes gave him an approachable appearance that patients found comforting. "So let me understand this correctly," James said as they walked toward the meeting room. "Ambassador Kylo wants to understand human male anatomy. For scientific purposes?" "Exactly," Olivia replied, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. "The Zephyrians reproduce completely differently. They have no concept of external reproductive organs." When they entered the laboratory, Kylo was already there, standing by the large observation window. His skin had shifted to a neutral silver, indicating focused attention. The moment he saw Olivia, subtle blue patterns flickered across his surface. "Ambassador Kylo," Olivia began, "this is Dr. James Kovac, our specialist in human reproductive biology." James extended his hand with a friendly smile. "Honored to meet you, Ambassador. I understand you have questions about human anatomy." Kylo accepted the handshake, his expression showing fascination at the human custom. "Dr. Kovac, your species continues to surprise us." "Yes, I am very curious about the physical differences between our kinds." What followed was perhaps the most unusual scientific discussion in human history. James, with his characteristic professionalism, began explaining human reproductive biology using medical charts and diagrams. Kylo listened intently, occasionally asking questions that revealed just how different Zephyrian biology was from human. "So these external organs," Kylo said, studying a medical illustration, "they serve multiple functions beyond reproduction?" "That's correct," James nodded. "The human male anatomy is quite complex, serving both reproductive and waste elimination functions." Kylo's skin rippled with colors Olivia had never seen before, indicating extreme confusion or possibly distress. "This seems inefficient and vulnerable?" James laughed good-naturedly. "You're not wrong. Human evolution didn't prioritize optimal design in that particular area." As the conversation continued, Olivia noticed something unexpected. While Kylo asked his questions with scientific curiosity, his gaze often drifted to her. There was something in those liquid mercury eyes that suggested his interest wasn't purely academic. "Ambassador," James said eventually, "would a direct observation be helpful for your research? I mean, seeing the actual anatomy rather than just diagrams?" The laboratory fell silent. Kylo's skin shifted through rapid color changes, and Olivia felt her heart rate spike. This was moving beyond simple scientific exchange into uncharted territory. "Would that be appropriate?" Kylo asked, looking between James and Olivia. "Your customs regarding physical exposure are still unclear to us." James shrugged casually. "In a medical context, it's perfectly normal. We're all scientists here." Olivia watched as Kylo considered this. She found herself holding her breath, unsure whether she wanted him to accept or decline. The growing attraction she felt toward the alien ambassador was complicating what should have been a straightforward scientific exchange. "Very well," Kylo said finally. "For the advancement of interspecies understanding." James began to explain what he was going to show, maintaining his professional demeanor even as the situation grew increasingly surreal. "Now, what you're about. To see represents millions of years of human evolution. It might seem strange compared to your species' biology. As James prepared for the demonstration, Kylo moved closer to Olivia. His presence filled the space around her with that familiar warm energy, and she caught a scent like rain on distant planets. "Dr. Martinez," he said quietly, "I find myself grateful for your guidance in understanding your species. Though I confess, my curiosity extends beyond mere scientific interest." Before Olivia could respond, James called their attention back to the demonstration. What happened next would change everything between the three of them, setting in motion events that would challenge everything they thought they knew about interspecies relationships and the nature of attraction itself. The moment of truth had arrived, and none of them were prepared for what would follow. Asterisk. James positioned himself near the examination table with the casual confidence of someone who had conducted thousands of medical demonstrations. Kylo stood nearby, his skin now displaying steady pulses of deep blue curiosity mixed with silver. Anticipation. Olivia found herself caught between scientific fascination and personal nervousness. "Before we begin," James said, adjusting the lighting for optimal visibility, "I should mention that human male anatomy can vary significantly between individuals. What you're about to observe represents just one example." Kylo nodded solemnly. "We understand individual variation. On Zephyr, though our reproduction is energy-based, we also show diversity in our bioluminescent patterns and consciousness frequencies." As James began to disrobe for the demonstration, Olivia noticed Kylo's skin beginning to shift colors more rapidly. The steady blue gave way to flickering patterns she had never seen before, almost like static interference on an old television screen. "The human male reproductive organ," James explained clinically, "serves multiple biological functions and changes size and position based on various physiological states." When James finally revealed his anatomy, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. Kylo's entire form suddenly flashed brilliant white, then deep crimson, colors cycling so rapidly that he appeared to be strobing. A sound emerged from him that Olivia had never heard before, something between a hum and a shriek. "What is that?" Kylo's mental voice exploded in both their minds, far louder than his usual gentle telepathic communication. It's completely separate. How does it attach to your body?" James, maintaining his professional composure despite the alien's obvious distress, continued his explanation. "It's connected through tissue and blood vessels. The positioning allows for both reproductive function and urination." Kylo took several steps backward, his skin now flashing between orange alarm and purple confusion. "But it has no consciousness. How can a body part exist without awareness? On Zephyr, every aspect of our being is connected to our central consciousness." "Well," James said, glancing at Olivia with slight amusement, "it's not exactly conscious, but it does respond to stimuli and has its own kind of behavior patterns." This explanation only made things worse. Kylo's color shifts became so rapid that he appeared to be having some kind of seizure. "Behavior patterns? It acts independently of your mind." Olivia stepped forward, recognizing that Kylo was experiencing something like cultural shock. "Ambassador, perhaps we should take a break. This is clearly overwhelming." But Kylo seemed unable to look away, his mercurial eyes fixed on James's anatomy with horrified fascination. Does it? Does it think? Make decisions? What if it wants something different than you want? James couldn't help but chuckle. "Well, that actually happens more often than we'd like to admit. Sometimes it has a mind of its own, so to speak." The comment sent Kylo into another wave of color changes. "This is terrifying. How do you humans function with independent body parts? What if it rebels? What if it makes alliances with other independent organs?" Olivia placed a gentle hand on Kylo's arm, feeling the electric warmth of his energy field. Kylo, it's not really independent. It's just an expression we use. It's still part of the unified human body. But you said it has behavior patterns. Kylo's mental voice was approaching panic levels. On Zephyr, such independence would be considered a parasitic invasion. James, now understanding the depth of Kylo's distress, quickly covered himself and approached the agitated alien with calm professionalism. Ambassador, let me explain this differently. Think of it like a specialized tool that responds to specific conditions, similar to how your bioluminescence responds to emotions. Kylo's frantic color shifts began to slow slightly. A tool? Not a separate entity? Exactly, Olivia said, her voice soothing. It's no more independent than your ability to change colors. It's just a specialized function of the human body. Gradually, Kylo's skin returned to more normal blue and silver patterns, though occasional flashes of orange indicated lingering anxiety. Your species is far more complex than we anticipated. How do you coordinate all these semi-autonomous systems? Practice, James said with a grin. Lots and lots of practice. As the tension in the room began to dissipate, Olivia realized that this awkward encounter had revealed something important about both species. The Zephyrians' unified consciousness approach to biology was as alien to humans as human anatomy was to them. Yet somehow, despite the obvious differences, she felt her connection to Kylo growing stronger. The mutual curiosity, the willingness to explore uncomfortable territory for the sake of understanding, and the gentle way Kylo looked at her even in his distress, all pointed to something deeper than scientific collaboration. This bizarre anatomy lesson had become an unexpected step toward genuine intimacy between species. The days following the anatomical demonstration were filled with a new kind of tension. Kylo had requested additional time to process what he had learned, spending long hours in meditation within his quarters. Olivia found herself checking on him frequently, concerned about his well-being and increasingly aware of her growing feelings for the alien ambassador. Dr. James Kovac had become an unexpected ally in bridging the gap between species. His easygoing nature and ability to discuss intimate topics without embarrassment made him the perfect intermediary for the delicate conversations that followed. He's been asking me more questions, James told Olivia as they reviewed notes in her laboratory. But they're getting more personal, less clinical. I think he's trying to understand not just human biology, but human relationships. Olivia felt her heart skip a beat. What kind of questions? About emotional connections, physical intimacy, the relationship between mental and physical attraction. James studied her face carefully. Olivia, I think he's interested in you specifically, not just humans in general. Before Olivia could respond, Kylo entered the laboratory. His skin displayed new patterns she hadn't seen before, swirling combinations of gold and deep blue that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his breathing. Dr. Martinez, Dr. Kovac, he said, his mental voice softer than usual. I have been contemplating our previous discussion. I believe I understand now why your species finds physical connection meaningful. He moved closer to Olivia, and she felt that familiar warm energy surrounding her. On Zephyr, we bond through consciousness merger. The physical form is merely a vessel. But observing human biology has made me realize that for your species, the physical and mental are inseparably linked. James, sensing the intimate nature of the conversation, began to gather his papers. I should probably leave you two to discuss this privately. No, please stay, Kylo said quickly. Your presence provides ... balance. I find human social dynamics easier to navigate with multiple perspectives. What followed was perhaps the most unusual relationship discussion in the history of either species. Kylo explained that Zephyrian attraction was based purely on consciousness compatibility, mental resonance that could be measured and predicted. The concept of physical desire was completely foreign to his people. But watching you, Dr. Martinez, Kylo continued, his color shifting to warm golds, I have begun to experience something new. When you smile, my energy patterns change. When you are near, I find myself wanting to understand not just your mind, but your entire being. Olivia felt tears forming in her eyes. Kylo, I've been feeling the same way. I know it's impossible. We're completely different species, but perhaps impossibility is simply another boundary to be explored, Kylo interrupted gently. Your species has taught me that connection can exist in forms I never imagined. James watched this exchange with growing amazement. Are you two actually falling in love? Because if so, this is the most incredible scientific development in human history. Kylo's skin brightened considerably. Love? Yes, I have been studying this human concept. A merging of consciousness, emotion, and physical presence into a unified experience. It seems both terrifying and wonderful. It is, Olivia whispered, stepping closer to him. Both terrifying and wonderful. As she approached, Kylo extended his hand toward her. The moment their skin made contact, both gasped. The electric sensation Olivia had felt before intensified, but now she could sense something more, a gentle probing at the edges of her consciousness. Can feel your thoughts, she breathed. And I can sense your emotions, Kylo replied in wonder. This is how Zephyrians bond, but I have never experienced it with another species. Your mind is so beautifully chaotic, so full of color and sound, and feeling. James stood quietly in the corner, documenting what might be the first recorded case of interspecies mental connection. But even his scientific mind was awed by the obvious love developing between the human woman and alien ambassador. What happens? Now? Olivia asked, still connected to Kylo through their joined hands. Now? Kylo said, his entire form glowing with soft golden light. We explore this new territory together. We learn what it means for two completely different beings to share one heart across the vastness of space. As they stood there, connected in ways that challenged everything known about biology and consciousness, Olivia realized that love truly was the universal language. It could bridge any gap, overcome any difference, and transform the impossible into the inevitable. The future was uncertain, but for the first time since the Zephyrians had arrived, Olivia felt completely sure of one thing. Some connections transcend all boundaries, even those between worlds. 3 months had passed since that first awkward anatomy lesson, and the research facility had become the center of unprecedented scientific collaboration. Word of the successful human-Zephyrian bonding had spread throughout both civilizations, bringing teams of researchers from across the galaxy to study this new form of interspecies connection. Olivia and Kylo had become the subject of intense study themselves, though they hardly minded. Their relationship had evolved into something that challenged every assumption about love, consciousness, and the nature of connection itself. Neural pathway formations are unlike anything we've seen, Dr. James Kovac explained to a gathering of Earth's top scientists. Olivia's brain shows new synaptic connections that seem to respond to Kylo's electromagnetic field. Meanwhile, Kylo's energy patterns have adapted to resonate with human brainwave frequencies. In the months since their initial connection, Olivia and Kylo had learned to communicate not just through words or telepathy, but through a complex dance of emotion and energy that neither species had thought possible. Their bond had become a bridge between worlds, opening new possibilities for diplomatic and personal relationships across the cosmos. The most remarkable aspect, Olivia added to the presentation, is that we don't lose our individual identities. The connection enhances, rather than diminishes our separate selves. Kylo, standing beside her with his skin displaying the warm golden patterns that had become his default in her presence, projected his thoughts to the assembled group. What we have discovered is that consciousness is more adaptable than either species believed. Love, it seems, creates new forms of existence. The implications were staggering. Already other Zephyrians had begun requesting assignment to Earth, curious about these new forms of connection. Similarly, human volunteers were being prepared for missions to Zephyr, eager to explore consciousness-based relationships. But for Olivia and Kylo, the scientific implications, while important, were secondary to the personal journey they were sharing. They had created something entirely new, a relationship that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions of experience. That evening, as they walked through the research facility's garden, under the light of Earth's moon and Zephyr's distant star, Olivia reflected on how much had changed since that first embarrassing anatomy lesson. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked Kylo, leaving everything familiar to explore something so uncertain. Kylo's response came not in words, but in a wave of warmth and contentment that flowed directly into her consciousness. When he did speak, his mental voice carried notes of humor that had developed during their time together. "I regret only that it took James's dramatic revelation to make me understand what I was feeling. Though I admit the memory of my reaction still causes me considerable embarrassment." Olivia laughed, the sound causing Kylo's skin to ripple with pleased silver patterns. "Poor James. He still blushes every time someone mentions that day." "He has been invaluable," Kylo acknowledged. "His willingness to bridge our different understanding of intimacy made this possible. We owe him much." As if summoned by their conversation, James approached from the laboratory building, carrying a bottle of champagne and wearing a broad smile. "I hope you don't mind the interruption," he said, "but I wanted to share some news. The Interspecies Council has approved the expansion of the Cultural Exchange Program. They're calling it the Martinez-Kylo Protocol." Olivia felt a flush of pride mixed with overwhelming emotion. What had started as scientific curiosity had become a template for connection across the stars. And James continued with a grin. "They've asked me to head the new Department of Interspecies Relationship Studies. Apparently, my expertise in anatomical diplomacy is in high demand." The three of them shared laughter that echoed across species barriers. As James opened the champagne, Kylo marveled aloud at the human custom of celebrating with fermented fruit, while Olivia explained the symbolism of bubbles rising toward the stars. Later, as James returned to his quarters, Olivia and Kylo remained. In the garden, the alien ambassador had learned to appreciate Earth's natural beauty, while Olivia had gained the ability to perceive the energy patterns that connected all living things. "What do you think happens next?" Olivia asked, settling onto a bench beside him. Kylo's form shifted to display the deep, contemplative blues she had learned to associate with his most profound thoughts. "We continue to explore, to learn, to grow together. We show others that connection is possible across any divide." He paused, his skin brightening with warm golden light. "And perhaps we discover what new forms of life can emerge when two worlds truly become one." As they sat together under the vast tapestry of stars, Olivia realized that her scientific curiosity had led her not just to screaming embarrassment, but to the greatest discovery of all, love that transcends every boundary the universe could create. Their story was just beginning, and the possibilities were as infinite as the cosmos itself.